Hi everyone. So we just got done doing this live event with Maria Shriver and Lisa Gibbons for Alzheimer's awareness on Sunday. It was so much fun. So I wanted to just come to you because it got me thinking. It was amazing. We had this amazing panel of experts talking about what you could do to prevent Alzheimer's, and really some of the really most interesting points that came up for me from this panel of experts was about how, we know what to do, but nobody's doing it. And that's one of the things we talk about a lot in Brain Warriors Way. Most of us know what to do. We've got the information, but we don't do it. And how come? So, one of the things we hear a lot is, it's never the perfect time. We're waiting for the perfect time. We're going to start our diet on Monday. We're going to start it after Christmas. We're going to start it, when it's the right time to do it. Here's a newsflash. If you're waiting for the perfect time, I don't know about your life. My life's never gone the way I exactly planned it. It's never been perfect. And if you're waiting for perfect, it's not going to happen. That's usually an excuse to fail. Stop waiting for perfect. So perfection is an excuse to fail in our experience. And I just want to point this out. So it's not just me, is what it turned out. I actually felt really good to realize it's not just me. There was Malika Chopra was there, and she's amazing. So this is Deepak Chopra's daughter, and hearing her story was really interesting. So she grows up with this, he's very world famous expert in quantum physics and the mind-body connection. And so you think, growing up in that household, she would have it all together and she'd understand it perfectly. And she's probably grown up, knowing all of this stuff and doing it perfectly. And she's like, no, I was that person who didn't do it, even though I had all the information. I took it for granted. I didn't do it. I had 2 kids. I'm so busy. And I'm like, oh my gosh, she sounds like me. Like, we're all busy, right? We all say we're too busy to do something. And so that got me really thinking. And her story was just, I really loved what she had to say. So she started breaking it down into smaller steps, easier to do strategies. And that's really what we talk about in Brain Warriors Way. Take baby steps. If you can't do it all, do something. Do baby steps. And I love the expression, I think it's Jim Rohn that says it. I love his saying, if you really want to do something, you'll find a way. And if you don't, you'll find an excuse. And after the thousands of people I've worked with and coached, I know that to be true. You got to ask yourself, why is it that some people accomplish these amazing feats and amazing, they have these amazing accomplishments in spite of incredible obstacles. Yet other people seem to have everything handed to them. They've got every opportunity, but they don't make it happen. And I think that's a really good question. So I think one of the reasons, I love some of the work that Tony Robbins does, and one of the things that has always stuck out and stuck with me with his work is you got to have a big enough why. And that's why the Brain Warriors Way is focused so heavily on mindset. You have to have a big enough why to really motivate you. If you don't know your why, you're never going to do your what. So you've got to understand your why. And that's why I'm here today. So normally I try to do my live chats. I try to get cleaned up. I try to do, I try to make it good. I try to make it right for you. Not perfect, but I try to make it right. And today I thought, you know what? No, I'm going to put my money where my mouth is. I'm going to get on here. Every Tuesday I have to go up to LA with my daughter. We spend all day up in LA. So we drive for hours. I have to, make my way from Hollywood up to the Valley. She's got these lessons and we're homeschooling and I do all this other stuff. And so, I'm in my gym clothes. I end up sweaty. I'm running around. We leave early in the morning. I'm tired, doing all these things. And it made me start thinking after this event on Sunday, no, put your money where your mouth is. If you want to get on there and explain to them, don't wait for perfection, just look for progress, then show them that's what you do. And that is what I do. So I'm in my gym clothes. That's how I spend my days. If I have to be sweaty, I'd rather be sweaty, carry an extra t-shirt and some deodorant than not work out at all. I don't spend days getting dressed up and made up and fake eyelashes. That's just for filming. And I make my day work for me. And one thing that, after talking to Malika on Sunday, she did the same thing. I noticed that she had the same strategy I did. She put together a strategy to make her days work for her. She realized she was never going to make it happen unless she came up with a strategy. So I want to go through this with you. I wrote this down. So I want to go through this with you. And so you have like some simple questions to ask yourself. So maybe you can start putting your program into place before, you're waiting for perfect, because perfect's not coming. It's just never coming. Having enough time, or waiting until, you have enough energy, enough money, enough whatever it is. Because I got to tell you, I sort of identified with her when she said, I'm like the daughter of Deepak Chopra. There's a lot of pressure that goes along with that. Well, people sometimes try to box my husband and I into that as well. It's like, well, you guys have the answers. You're Dr. Amen. Or they'll say that to my daughter. Well, she's growing up in this house where you guys, she's learning all this stuff. It's kind of an unfair thing to label her with, or even us, because we're super busy, and successful people don't have less problems generally. Their problems are just bigger. And we see those people in our clinics. We see celebrities. We see billionaires. Their problems aren't smaller, they're bigger. Their kids tend to, they get sick. They get really sick. And they would give almost anything to have, their kids be healthy just like you would. So problems don't go away magically just because you're successful or you have money. It just means you have to learn to strategize differently. So I want to go through some of this with you and sort of explain to you the strategies we've had to use. Now, fortunately, I've been on both sides of that fence. I've been really sick, grew up poor, had a lot of drama and trauma. So I didn't have a choice. I had to learn I had to fight I'm scrappy. I'm a little scrappy. I had to learn how to I have a little street fighter in me. I had to learn how to sort of get out of that place on my own. And so now on the other side of the fence, I do realize that there are times where I'm like, oh, phew, I can take a deep breath now. I can relax. And if anything, I find myself falling into that trap. And that's what I don't ever want to do. So I want to come up with a strategy so that doesn't happen. And on these days and these times when I'm really busy with my daughter and I'm running around and we travel a lot, I don't want to fall into the trap of, oh, okay, I'm just going to take a break. Because your health doesn't just take a break. You can't do that. I know after being sick, you can't just do that. So one thing I want to go through, I wrote down some questions. These are things that I have done for myself to keep me on track when I'm super busy. So, and I actually have these big giant sticky notes, and I do this with my daughter. Whenever we have a goal or she has something she wants to accomplish, we just write it down on these big sticky notes. We like plop it on the wall or a window, and we like literally write out the goal or whatever the challenge is that something we're trying to accomplish. We'll write it out. And then I tell her, be very specific about what you want to accomplish and put a time to it so that you have something to work with. So identify the change you want to make, okay, your goal. And then identify the barriers. Now, oftentimes those barriers are perceived barriers. They're not even real barriers. They're perceived barriers. But sometimes they're real barriers. Like, I'm in LA. That's a time barrier, right? That's a time constraint. I'm in my car. Normally, I wouldn't do a live chat in my car. But I decided, well, that's a real barrier, but it's also a perceived barrier. Who said I can't do a live chat in my car? That's just something I came up with in my head. So if you do you see where I'm going with this? Sometimes the barriers we think are barriers don't have to be barriers. We just have to be creative. And then, so start brainstorming strategies and be super creative. Don't let your rules that you've created in your head stand in the way of that creativity when you're coming up with a list of solutions. So if you can, delegate some things, if you can come up with some solutions, do that. So I stay in my gym clothes. I'm a little sweaty. Oh, well, you don't have to like me. You don't have to be my friend. I'll try not to offend you, with my body odor or whatever. I'm going to carry a stick of deodorant and a t-shirt. I'm going to clean up, but at the same time, I'm not going to miss out on being healthy. And then what I do while my daughter is in her classes, I'll come out to my car and I will do a short meditation. Now, on those days, this is where I go back to progress, not perfection. Maybe I don't get a full workout, but that doesn't mean I get no workout. So do you think a 15 or 20 minute workout is better than no workout at all? Absolutely, especially when you're sitting in a car all day. But so often what I hear from people is, well, I only had 15 minutes, so I skipped it. Well, that's why you feel terrible. Because if you went for a really brisk walk or a sprint, or you just did some stretching for 15 or 20 minutes, you're going to feel better than if you did nothing. So that's the progress versus perfection. If you meditate, if I go sit in my car and pray, for me, prayer and meditation are connected. So if I go sit in my car and I pray or meditate for 5 minutes, it's better than not doing it at all. If I have 20 minutes, great. But I'll do 5 minutes. So that's what I mean by progress versus perfection. So after you do your brainstorming, come up with a whole list. They can be as silly and crazy as you want. And believe it or not, some of those silly, crazy things turn out to be okay. Okay, like I don't have time to do live chats on Tuesdays. Well, that's actually fairly silly. I can do one if I do it in my car. My thought was, well, it doesn't look good. The quality's not good. Well, I don't know. You guys will have to let me know. Is the quality bad? I'm not quite sure. You let me know. If it doesn't work, maybe I won't do it again. And then create a logical plan. So my daughter and I, when we first decided we were going to do these Tuesdays, I'm like, whoa, that's like a long day. It's a really long day. We have to have a really creative, logical plan. She and I both like to eat healthy. We like to work out. We have a lot of, we are structure creatures. We like structure. So we decided to make our day work for us, not us work for the day. And so we used our structure to our advantage. We plan ahead. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So we made sure that the day before we take a half an hour, we take our meal, we take food with us. We make sure that we plan everything to take. I've got my whole list. I have a list on my phone. Do I have my checklist? Do I have everything with me? I make sure that I set aside that time to do some stretching, some exercise, some meditation, doing a live chat for you guys, focus on what's important to me in that day. And I have a plan for how to make that day work for me so that it doesn't just exhaust me. We have books on tape. And we actually hold little meetings. Since we're homeschooling, we have a little meeting in the car, right? So I use that day productively instead of feeling like, oh my gosh, that's 4 hours of driving I just wasted driving, sitting in my car. It's not 4 hours wasted now. Hopefully that makes sense. And know the difference between what matters and what doesn't. So what I mean by that is I already sort of touched on it. Don't toss it out. If you're too busy to do a full workout, doesn't mean don't do one at all. It's okay to shorten it, right? But also know the difference between what's important and what's not. For some people, being dressed up, getting, showered, made up, all dressed up, that is really important to them. But is that going to be, you got to prioritize things. Is that going to be really the important thing in the long term, in long term for your health? So for me, when something really big happens in my life or something really stressful happens in my life, I ask myself this question: does it have eternal value? Because that's quickly a way for me to put myself back into a place in perspective. For example, we're doing construction. We went on vacation for a couple weeks. We came back and they had put something in wrong. They put in the completely wrong flooring. Okay, so that was a big deal. Really easy to get really upset, really mad, right? But after being sick like I have and going through what I've been through with my health, after being mad for a few minutes, I literally stepped back and went, does this have eternal value? Quite frankly, it just doesn't. Somehow it's going to get fixed, but it doesn't have eternal value to me. It's not cancer. It's not my daughter being sick. So it puts it back in perspective. Same thing with, on a smaller scale, when I'm asking myself about my health plan, much smaller scale, but, getting ready, putting my mascara on in the morning, is that as important as, getting my workout in? Probably not. And so I start asking myself these questions, and that's how I quickly eliminate. It's a process of elimination. So ask yourself what's important. And then, let's see. So ask yourself what you can cut out. So at the end of the day, what I ask myself is a couple of things. Did I make progress? Was it perfect? Probably not. If it wasn't perfect, was it better than it could have been? Probably. And if not, what can I do better the next day? Give yourself a little grace if it wasn't what you expected and what you wanted. And am I better or worse off for doing it the way I did it? And if it wasn't great, then, figure out what you can do better the next time. I learn a lot this way because you make a lot of mistakes. So that's really how I do it. But the questions I ask myself in actually helping to set this up, to strategize, very simple. So identify the change. We started off. Identify the change you want to make and be specific. Identify the barriers, even the perceived ones. Brainstorm the strategies and be creative. Create a logical plan. Strive for progress, not perfection. And know the difference between what matters and what doesn't. And then if it's something really big in your life, ask yourself, does it have eternal value? And if it does, if it's not that big, if it's not that dramatic, then you can ask yourself something a little smaller, like, is this going to matter a week from now? Is it going to matter 2 weeks from now? Am I better off for, am I going to be better off for doing this thing? Put it in perspective. Create some kind of a question that reframes it for you so you put it in perspective. So I hope that helps. But for those of you waiting until you have more money, you have more time, you are waiting for less pressure from your family, whatever it is you're telling yourself, it's probably a lie, because it's not going to happen at that time. You've got to make it happen. Because if you really want to do something, you're going to find a way. And if you don't, you're going to find an excuse. So just want to throw that out there. Even that panel of amazing experts struggled with the same things that you and I struggle with every single day. Hope this was helpful in some way. Let me know if the quality of this is not great. I won't do it in my car anymore. Just wanted to throw that out there. So hope you guys have an amazing, wonderful rest of your day. I'm about to go get in traffic again. Talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.